Okay, so in a no-deal Brexit scenario, in actual fact, not an awful lot will change for businesses. There have been some legislative changes, however, practically speaking, bidders are not going to see a difference in regulated tender processes. The one key difference that businesses should be aware of relates to how contract opportunities are advertised. So if you're a bidder at the moment, you'll be familiar with the OJEU, which is the official journal of the European Union. That's where we see these contract opportunities advertised. However, after a no-deal Brexit, or indeed after any Brexit, the UK will not have access to the OJEU. So there will now be an e-notification service specifically for UK public sector contract opportunities. So at the moment, it's not known how to sign up to this yet, but we're awaiting guidance from the government on that, but it will come into force on Brexit Day. So the new e-notification service based in the UK is called Find a Tender. So contract opportunities in the UK will be available via that service. It's completely free to sign up to, it's free to access, so businesses won't have to have any expenditure associated with that. And you can search for opportunities in the way that you normally would on OJEU, because things like the CPV codes, which businesses will be familiar with, are going to be exactly the same. So all the information that you get from OJEU will be the same as on Find a Tender. I wouldn't say there's anything specific that businesses need to do, apart from keeping up to date with any new announcements as they come forward. The one thing to bear in mind is, whilst the e-notification service exists, Contracts Finder will work as normal, so will Public Contracts Scotland and Sell to Wales, as well as eSourcing NI, which is the Northern Irish domestic platform for advertising public contracts. And particularly for below threshold contracts, those platforms will still exist. Now, the next thing to be aware of relates to the fact that you can still, as a business, search for opportunities on the OJEU. Those will then be EU-based opportunities. In terms of access to these opportunities, this is where the no-deal Brexit really does have an effect, because at the moment, if you want to access an EU-based opportunity, obviously as part of the EU, we can do that quite easily. Now, this is where the WTO rules come into play. So at the moment, there is a WTO Government Procurement Agreement, which is WTO GPA. And we are a member of the GPA by virtue of the fact that we're a member of the EU. After Brexit, of course, we won't be. However, the decision has been taken that the UK will become a member of the GPA in its own right, which is actually great news, and it's already quite a positive deal in terms of procurement and in terms of a deal with the EU. And what that means is that UK businesses will still have access to EU public sector contracts. And actually there are other parties to the GPA on a worldwide basis, so Australia, Canada, those kinds of countries, which means that government procurement is open to UK bidders. What's important to note is that the GPA coverage isn't exactly the same as the coverage that you have now as a member of the EU. So if you're particularly interested in government defence contracts or certain utility contracts and certain services, you should probably seek separate legal advice to see what the impact of no-deal Brexit might be on that. And the other thing to bear in mind is that if you're a bidder undergoing a regulated procurement process at the moment, on Brexit Day, in fact, there will be new rules applicable to that procurement process, but from a practical perspective, you won't really notice any difference. So for better or for worse, your regulated procurement process will continue as normal. So in terms of where businesses can go for advice and support on Brexit, there are a range of resources. My first recommendation would be the Cabinet Office's website, because there is a host of procurement policy notes which are published regularly, and there's quite a good FAQ section on that and about no-deal Brexit, so I would definitely recommend that. Of course, the Chambers has certain resources, so the Brexit Business Health Check is something I would recommend. And also, if you have any specific legal inquiries, then you can always email us on brexithotline@vincentmasons.com.